Hey everybody, Greg Casillo from Casillo.com here with your photo quick tip of the week. There were a lot of conversation. I couldn't believe all this conversation about auto ISO. I had gone over in my choosing aperture and shutter creatively video some of my settings and what my thoughts are on how I was exposing, choosing my aperture versus my shutter, and I also remarked that I don't really care about my ISO. Well, I probably said that wrong, and I shouldn't have said that, because it sparked a really good discussion about whether or not to use auto ISO. And I am vehemently against using auto ISO. I have 7 photos here that I'm going to show you that all are good examples of images that I might not have either couldn't create at all, or they would not have come out the way that they did if I would have been using auto ISO. It's just the way it is. And I'm going to stand by it forever and ever and ever. I will never use auto ISO, and I don't think you should either. So let's start with image number 1. This image was shot in a church with a very thin window with a little bit of sun coming through. This is the only spot where that sun was hitting, and all the rest of the church was pretty brightly lit. But with that sun coming in, I adjusted my settings and, of course, created this. Now, for the sake of argument, yes, somebody's going to say, oh, you could have used spot metering. Yes, I probably could have used spot metering, but it probably wouldn't have come out of the same. It would have metered more of the background. It might have blown out their faces. It could have been a completely different image instead of what I have here. This is what I wanted. This is what I saw in my mind's eye, and I was able to create it because I was controlling my shutter, my aperture, and my ISO as I was creating the image. This one, in a backlit scene. This was very heavily backlit. We actually had this photo, I showed you this photo in the video from last week. This is a very heavily backlit image. There's a lot of light back here. And if I had it on auto ISO, it might have dropped it down. It might have said that I was overexposed. It could have been gone all kinds of wacky. Instead, I knew what I wanted to create. I checked my histogram, and I created it. Now, if he would have moved to the left or to the right or changed even just a foot or two, it could have completely changed the exposure because you're changing your angle. If I would have turned more out to the left of the frame here and shown more of the bright area, this area right here, okay, the camera might have adjusted the ISO again and changed everything. That's not what I want to happen. I want it to stay consistent, and I want my metering to be on his face, which is what I knew that I already had because I was shooting on manual exposure mode. Now, this image I created, there's actually 3 strobes in this shot. There is no way I would have been able to create this with auto ISO. If I'd have had it on auto ISO, it would have still been metering without the strobes. Alright? There's just no way to create this. You got all this, you got the strong light source out here, you have very little light on the inside. There's no way I would have been able to create this, especially with all those strobes on auto ISO. Just isn't happening. Same with this image. I have a very strong light source over here, basically backlighting, but I'm shooting into the sun. Alright, similar to, this image, I have the strong backlight there. This time I'm shooting into the sun. Alright, that sun is coming directly into my lens, which makes for an awesome photo. I love it, but you can't do this with auto ISO. It's just going to throw your meter way off, and it just doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know how to handle it, or it thinks it knows what to do, but you're not telling it what to do. You're not giving it the proper instructions, so it's not going to create the right image for you. Same with this one. I actually darkened and saturated the background with this image, alright? And there's actually a flash on her face. Now, if I'd have had it on an auto ISO, let's see what my settings were here. 2.8, 1/125th, ISO 3200. Okay, so if it might have, I wanted to intentionally underexpose the background here. It's not going to let me do that, alright? Then I'm going to have to start playing with my exposure compensation, and it's just not worth it. You're better off sticking with a manual mode, manually set your ISO, your shutter, and your aperture, and you're done, okay? Next one, studio photos. There's no way you can create awesome studio photos with an auto ISO. It's always going to be metering for the available light. This is all flash here. This is all studio strobe. There's no way you can create this. Last one, This one, I wanted a strong silhouette of Gary here. You can't do that with an auto ISO. You try it, it's gonna meter all this other stuff. It's gonna drop your shutter speed, blow your ISO super high. You know, it's just not gonna end up being a great image. I'm already at 6400. It's gonna think that I'm underexposing. I don't know why I was at a 500th of a second, but he might have been moving around a lot, so that's probably why. And I think did I have my long lens on? Yes, I had my 200mm lens on, so that would have made a difference too. Point is, stay away from auto ISO, please. If you still want to debate me, I'd love to hear it in the comments, but I have not heard zero. I have not heard any good, convincing reasons to use auto ISO, and I would love to see a real image, a real difficult image, especially with flash or with multiple lighting sources like this one, to be able and create an awesome image like that when you're on auto ISO. I'd love to see them. Please comment. And yeah, I think that's it. Hopefully I've beaten this into the ground and you're not going to use auto ISO. Greg Casillo, Casillo.com. Keep shooting. See ya.